Welcome back. As I prepared this episode for you, I'm getting a much later start on the day than I usually do. Ripley and I both had appointments. She with the dog groomer for a bath and a haircut, and me with the new doctor. Not to worry, I'm okay. Just monitoring the sorts of issues that people my age sometimes encounter. Certainly nothing that a healthy lifestyle and a daily walk shouldn't keep in check. All that activity kind of wore me out, though, and I took a nap when I got home. So now I'm running out of day to get this episode out for you. That said, we might grab a word that we've talked about before and then maybe a segment or two from a past year's episode for April 3rd to plump up today's episode. We'll top it off with a luminary, a song, and a quote. So grab your favorite cup, sit back, and let's see what we've got. Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for April 3rd. April 3rd is the 93rd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 94th in leap years, with 272 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is electroencephalograph. The word electroencephalograph, sometimes shortened to EEG, is a noun, which means it's the name of a thing, and that thing happens to be an apparatus for detecting and recording brain waves. It's very similar to the word electroencephalogram, which is also a noun and also goes by the shortcut of EEG. But an electroencephalogram is the tracing of brain waves made by an electroencephalograph. One of the things I like about words is that when you get some exposure to them, you can begin to recognize their sources. Let's take electroencephalograph, for instance. You have electro, which means having to do with electricity, and then encephalo, which has to do with the brain, and graph, which has to do with an instrument for recording or to write or express by written characters. In the case of an electroencephalogram, the first two parts are the same, electro and encephalo, and gram means that which is written or marked. So something that's written down or written on paper. So an electroencephalograph is the machine that reads the brain and writes it down, so to speak, and the electroencephalogram is that little strip of paper that shows the representation of the brain waves drawn, written, or marked on that piece of paper. In similar manner, a telegraph is a machine by which one can send messages, and the telegram is such a message printed out on paper. A seismograph is a machine that detects and records seismic activity or movements within the earth, whereas a seismogram is the strip of paper on which it's been recorded. Back to today's word, though, electroencephalograph comes to us as a scientific term composed from Greek and Latinized Greek. First known use of the word electroencephalograph is in 1934. Electroencephalograph. And with that, this is the birthday of French Dr. Pierre Brettoneau, born April 3rd, 1778. He was a pioneer of modern medicine. In the days before we understood about germs, he recognized that there was something out there that could cause disease and the transmission of disease from person to person. For lack of an established term back then, he used the term morbid seeds. He identified typhoid fever, named the disease we know as diphtheria, and distinguished between scarlet fever and diphtheria. He came to be convinced that disease was caused by bacteria, but he didn't have a microscope, so he couldn't quite prove his theory. He also discovered that the same illness might manifest differently in different patients. The other thing that Dr. Brettoneau is known for is that he performed the first successful tracheotomy. Dr. Brettoneau lived to the age of 83. This is the birthday of American country soul singer Billy Joe Royal, born April 3rd, 1942 in Valdosta, Georgia. He's best known for his song Down in the Boondocks, and I'll include a link to that one in the description. He was active in the music business from the 1950s on up into, well, really kind of until the end of his life. He was successful on the country charts into the 1990s and enjoyed something of a comeback in the 2000s thanks to airplay on country and classic radio stations. Billy Joe Royal passed in his sleep in October of 2015 at the age of 73. Now, you might have been expecting me to talk about Billy Joe Royal's song Down in the Boondocks today, and I almost did. But as I was reading about him, I see that he did a version of a song titled Hush in 1967. I'm familiar with the song by that name, but not by Billy Joe Royal. So here's the story. Hush was actually written by Joe South for Billy Joe Royal to sing, and he did. Deep Purple band member Ritchie Blackmore had heard the Billy Joe Royal original of Hush and thought it was a great song and would be a good song for their act if they could come up with a different arrangement. They did and recorded the whole song in 2 takes. Deep Purple's version of Hush has been described as a psychedelicized version of the song. Both Billy Joe Royal and Deep Purple reached top 5 chart positions with Hush. Hush has been covered by many other artists over the years. Hush by Deep Purple. Link in the description, and also a link to Billy Joe Royal's version. How about that? Now, some of you might know that I like to grow things. I'm currently growing in containers on a sunny patio, but I have had bigger gardens, and those of you who do garden know that some plants don't care. Once you get them started, man, they'll just keep coming back year after year. Like these chives. I don't remember if I brought them to Fort Worth from Oklahoma, but I do know that I've had chives growing and coming back for as long as I've been in Fort Worth. Yay, chives! A good bit of other planting has to be worked around the seasons, and a lot of that is based on frost dates. The first frost date in the fall and the last frost date in the spring. Another metric is soil temperature. I know from reading seed catalogs and seed packets that some plants are very sensitive to cold or to heat. Most beans, for example, want a fairly consistent soil temperature in a particular range, but short of sticking a thermometer in the ground, how could you know that? I found that all to be intimidating, almost a voodoo kind of mystery, until some dear old-timer told me that when chives bloom, it's warm enough to plant beans. I learned that in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and have been made sure to grow chives ever since. It's way easy, too, because chives are one of those plants that keeps coming back. When the chives bloom, it's warm enough to plant beans. Alrighty, y'all take care. Be good to each other, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoyed this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.